G'day, Mebo. 5 here.
Yeah, Scully too, eh?
Yeah, we've just got a special show for you today. We've got a bit of a special guest. We went down to the Caribbean Camping Super Show last weekend and we caught up with a man called Ron Wilson. And he's a bit of a legend at Camp Oven Cooking. So he's been doing it for about 36 years now. And tell us a bit about him, Scully.
Yeah, he's a bit of a camp oven caterer, eh? He caters for functions and he does about 80 bread rolls at once.
Yeah, that's right, Scully, that's right. 80. He uses 10 12-inch camp ovens and he cooks 8 in each camp oven. Yeah, that's why they call him King Brown Camp Oven Kitchen. So caught him making the perfect damper. So stick around for this one. Rogie D.
Turkey knee, haha.
I'm down here at the Brisbane Caravan Camping Show. I'm down here with King Brown Ronnie, Camp Oven Kitchen, and he's been cooking in camp ovens for over 30 years.
Oh, I love cast iron camp oven cooking. Like I say, I've been doing it for 36 years, so yeah, wouldn't be doing it that long if I didn't like it. Yeah. That's for sure, mate. Yeah. Anybody goes camping, you know, you're going to take your camp oven with you because you've got to cook a roast, cook up some dampers.
It's going to be today's episode, so
we'll be cooking damper over here very shortly. You want to learn the ins and outs and how to do it properly? Because I was the worst damper cook in the world for about 10 years, so I've made all the mistakes. I know how to fix them. Where's the other camp oven that I was going to cook? There it is, found it. Alright, we'll go old school with the damper. You might be at the campfire, you need to be able to make a damper on the coals. Do some demonstrations of what to do right and wrong. So alright, random bunch of coals thrown on there. So anyway, how do you get that perfect bottom, easy to cut, nice thin line of crust? The longer it's in the oven cooking, the thicker both them crusts are going to get because they're closest to the heat sources. Right, so that's all making sense in it. Alright, so what am I going to do? I'm going to, before I even mix a damper batter, I'm going to do that in a second. I'm going to put this camp oven over here on those coals that I threw it in. I'll just check in. Self-raising flour. What I can fit in my hand. Okay. I'm just going to dust that over the floor of the oven there. Okay, when I look at that, it's almost see-through. It's not a real thick layer, but it is sitting clear off. That's smoking already. That's going nice and hot, by the way. Alright, well anyway, I'm just going to put my lid back on there now. We'll forget about that. We'll come over here and make a damper. I'll explain what I'm doing there in a second. There's more than one reason to it. 4 cups of self-raising flour. That's 2. I really lose count a lot. I lost count yesterday. 3. 4. It's hard to count 4 sometimes, it really is. Especially if you put them in one pile. That's why I put 1, 2, 3, 4. I can count the lumps in when I get past. Okay, that's some self-raising flour. We're just going to put in half a teaspoon of salt. I usually just do that on my hand. You know that, because it's not that important. Anyway, icing sugar. Alright, now is that Ronnie Wilson King Brown special damper mix? A very big heat spoon. Tablespoon. Yes. If you put 2 in, it gets a bit too crumbly. That'll make it really light and fluffy, putting that icing sugar in there. And it makes a big difference. Changes the taste a little bit. It's just nicer. It's not quite as salty as one without it, obviously. I actually learnt that off an old drover's cook when I was about 25, 26 year old, and he'd been retired for 10 years. He'd been cooking all in sheds west of Burke all of his life. That is an old recipe. So I don't really want to tell you it's not. Okay, damper maker over there. How do you mix your dampers?
Yeah.
With your hands, righto. Who else mixes their dampers with their hands? Another one over here. Yep, couple over here. Righto, you're wrong. You've got to have a lucky damper mixing knife. It's the only way to mix your dampers, alright? And I'm not being, like I am being funny, but this is true. You watch, there's a reason for this. There's actually more than one reason. I'll show you why. There's no way of me knowing how much water to put in there. I could go 2 cups or 2.2 cups and it would be different every single time. So that's not how you tell how much moisture goes into a damper mix. The best way is, I know it's going to be 2-ish cups, 2-ish plus. So what we do We put in a good cup and a half to start with. Good big glug. It's going to take a few minutes to mix the damper. It always does. Nothing you can do about it. Take your time. It'll happen. Give it a bit of a stir around with your knife. It's going to come into like a crummy sort of a mixture. And lots of little, what was my technical word I was using yesterday? Lots of little crummy daggy things or something. Yeah, lots of little crummy things. And millions and millions of them, see? Little balls of crummy things. That's stage one. Alright, so we need a bit more water. Add a little bit more water like that. Okay, it should start to come together a little bit better now, where we'll have bigger crummy things rolling around in there with the knife. See what I mean? The knife's still going through it. There we go, it's just moisture just bound in there now. We've got half a dozen very big crummy things floating around. And I've still got dry flour right down in the corner there. You won't be able to see that probably, but a little bit of dry flour down in there. And it doesn't seem to want to pick up. That's normal. But that's getting fairly close. We've only got a couple of lumps there now. 2 or 3 big lumpy things. We are really close. Really, really close. When a damper gets to that point, it can get too wet real quick. So you've got to be really, really light on the wrist. Just tiny, tiny bits of water like that. And that was not much. I reckon that's about right. Might need one more splash like that. I'm rolling it around. I know what happened there. Look at that. See that? Yep. No, well, I reckon we're there. When that ball of batter will chase that knife and stay with it, you've got it right. That's pretty good. But anyway, you can see in there where it's pockmarked. You can't see too much of it because of the there's air in there. Because when I've been using my knife, I've actually been cutting air in the whole time. If you're using your fingers, you're pushing the air back out. So the difference is, my damper has got an advantage over your damper because it's already got air in it and it's already light. You know, it's going to blow up and be light and fluffy. Yours is starting as a brick because it's got no air in it at all. If you cut the batter, it looks like a pancake batter, all smooth and shiny. I'll just put this in here. There we go. Now, we're going to leave that for a second. Wander back over here to the camp oven. We've mixed our batter and we're working on the colour of the damper's bum. So we want a nice, good crust on the bottom. Now, flames are never good inside your camp oven. So see how it's black and smoking there? Okay. Well, that's the colour. If I was to put that damper batter in there right now, that would be the colour of that base. It'll be black and smoky. So what I've been doing all this time is actually finding out what the temperature of that camp oven base actually is. I know that's a hot spot there. Alright, I'm just going to sweeten that with a bit of flour there like that. And I'm actually going to rotate that oven a bit. I'm not going to remove any heat, and you might think that'd be the smartest thing to do. What I am going to do is, there's a hot coal right there, very hot one. I say it's that bloody thing there. Lucky enough to mix it up a little bit, just to try and even it out a bit. Put that back on. Now, apart from that, see that light tan, just outside the black burnt bit? That's the colour I was looking for. Anywhere about that. It'll darken up a little bit more probably. That's fine. The point is, the colour of that flour in there. There we go. Once you get it to where it's tan all around, you know you've got a nice golden crust on the bottom. So I'm not going to take any heat out. I'm just going to add a little bit more flour on there. Because those coals are cooling down. I'm putting in a wet batter. And at this stage you can touch it with your hands and make it to a nice shape, whatever you want to do. I'm going to carve a bit of a cross in it. Right, there we go.
What's the cross do, King Brad?
Okay, the cross, that carving I put in there just then, it's for effect. If I didn't do that, it would just tear itself apart anyway, and it just wouldn't look nice and attractive like that. So, I think that we'll give that a bit of a bit of a glaze over the top. And this egg yolk mixture, that's where I get my colour. It comes up a nice golden colour when you put a bit of that on. No, it's a whole egg dash with only a little bit of milk. Yeah. And we'll punch a few holes in him because rising damper is brought up by steam. So that gives your steam a bit of a head start. And bedding out. Now, what I'm doing now is I'm checking, actually while I'm talking to you, every time I come over here, I'm checking the flour around the outside of that damper. Nothing now is black and smoking. Everything is sort of stable at a nice darker brown sort of a colour. I know now what colour the bottom of my damper is going to be. So I haven't guessed in any way. I'm not gambling in any way on the crust on that damper. I'm making sure it's right. I did that before I even put the batter in there. I made sure I was going to have a good bottom crust. It's as easy as that. If I was to throw my, well, which is probably where you fellas have been going wrong, you get your damper batter and you put it directly on the floor of the camp oven on the heat. Okay, so you've got a heat source metal damper batter. I've got heat source metal, flour buffer, damper batter. Right? If you're sitting your damper batter directly on the floor of the camp oven, you're putting it in a frying pan. Okay? That little thin layer, and it's only thin, is enough to turn that camp oven back into an oven. So that's a very interesting point in it, you know? Yeah. Right there and then you can improve your damper making skills just by doing that one little thing. Actually, no, I've got to put some heat on now. So as far as your top heat goes, dampers love a bit of heat, so don't be frightened of that. Alright, I'm going to mount them up on there. Fair swag of coals on there. We want to bring that up to temperature and get it cooking pretty quick. Like I was saying before, the longer the cooking time, the thicker the crust. So we want to cook a damper fairly fast, but not to the point of burning, obviously. This will be safe. I can guarantee you can load your oven up with coals, walk away for the next 15 to 20 minutes, and it'll be fine. In 15 or 20 minutes, about 20 actually, it should be pretty much risen to where it's going to rise to, and then it will start to colour from then on. So the colouring will happen pretty much in the last 5 to 10 minutes. 25 minutes it'll start colouring. 30 is probably very close to full colour, and probably cooked at 30 minutes. 35 minutes to be sure. I'll tell you what, see, I'm not a gadget man, but these lid lifter things are one thing I do use. It's not just the lifter, this is what I want to show you. If you wriggle in, get the grip on your lid there like that, and this is how you keep the ash and stuff out of your food. You just go a little twist like that, and then you're right, you know she's safe. While I'm doing that, look, she's brown, it's very hot one side, I'm just going to rotate that oven, right? So that's the other thing it's good for. I'll just rotate that oven so I haven't got a hot spot on one side. It's got a bail hook, because that, ladies and gentlemen, that's a bail, it's not a handle. Alright? That on the lid is a handle, that's a bail in camp oven language. Anyway, that's all I'll show you that. Now I've got to put some more heat back on there. Oh.
The rains are here. The rains are here.
This might be the only one I get to make today. I'll make it. The camera?
Yeah, the screen's just going to nothing.
Yeah, might be this thing again. See the colour of the flower in the background? Yeah. That's telling me the colour. That's telling me the colour of the bottom. See?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Cheers.